So mosquitoes are jerks. Like, nobody likes mosquitoes, and why are you coming up and bothering me? I'm like a giant to you. I can just clap my hands and smash you into guts all over the place. Why would you risk that for some lunch? But still, mosquitoes are going to bite somebody. But if you're a person that feels like you're a mosquito magnet, like they're always just drawn to you, like I have 70 bites, you have no bites. What is wrong with me? What is happening? Just know that there are usually physiological issues going on with this, and what most people don't know is that there's steps you can take to improve these issues. So in this video, I'm going to help you understand why the mosquitoes are picking on you, why they won't leave you alone, and steps you can take to turn the situation around. Get them to chase somebody else. Let's jump in.
TC Hale is not a doctor and does not claim to be a doctor or licensed in any type of medical field. Don't be an idiot and use anything heard on the show as medical advice. This information should be used for educational purposes only, and you should contact your doctor for any medical advice. Now get off me.
So before we jump into some steps that you can take, there's an interesting new study out that kind of talks about how it seems that there's a higher level of what's called carboxylic acids. And this is a type of fatty acid, and it seems to be produced by bacteria in the skin. And it appears if someone had a higher level of bacteria in their skin, that they might produce more of this carboxylic acid, and that might attract some species of mosquitoes. With all these things that we talk about, it can kind of depend on what species it is. And it's not like you're going to grab some tweezers and figure out, oh, well, this is a Scandinavian Rickscavium mosquito or something. You're not going to do that in your yard. So you just kind of want to put as many things in your favor if you're being hunted down by mosquitoes nonstop. And this new research is interesting, but it doesn't seem to be that solid, and it doesn't give us a lot of indications of steps we can take to adjust the carboxylic acid that our body might be producing. They kind of view it like, this is your genetics, sorry about your luck. But I just kind of want to mention this because this is something new and might turn out to be an interesting development down the road. But for a long time, scientists have understood how mosquitoes are going to find their prey by finding either carbon dioxide, skin odors, or body heat. And this may be why pregnant women seem to attract more mosquitoes, because they're putting off more carbon dioxide and they have a slightly higher body heat. So that might be a double whammy that kind of makes some pregnant women really become like a mosquito magnet. Like a pregnant woman isn't already dealing with enough trouble as it is, right? But this carbon dioxide thing can really give us a lot of clues into why some people seem to be such a magnet for these mosquitoes. And I used to view it like, well, look all the sugar you're eating. You're like a popsicle for this mosquito. Of course he's going to chase you down. And for a long time, they kind of thought that it was someone who might have higher sugar in their blood was attracting more mosquitoes. But that doesn't seem to be the case. But what's interesting about that is that a main driver for why we breathe is not just to bring in oxygen like most people think. It's so that we can get rid of carbon dioxide. So carbon dioxide is acidic, and the blood needs to be in a pH range that's pretty narrow. And if it goes too alkaline, that can create a lot of trouble. And if it goes too far on that acidic side, that can create a lot of trouble in the body as well. So the body likes to regulate that pH in the blood and keep it in a good range. And one of its biggest ways to do this is by getting rid of CO2 or holding on to CO2. And it will do that by adjusting the rate at which we breathe. So we teach people how to look at their breath rate by just running tests at home to get an idea if their blood might be leaning too far on the alkaline or too far on the acidic side. And then they can make adjustments to help the body function a little bit better. But the body gets rid of this CO2. And so if someone's blood is leaning a little bit more on that acidic side, they will be breathing at a higher level, a higher rate, and they'll be putting off more CO2, saying, hey, mosquitoes, why don't you come hang out with me? Now, an interesting thing about this when we're looking at sugars and carbs and why we might used to think that, oh, this person's a popsicle, is because a byproduct of properly processing carbohydrates in the body is CO2. So if someone's eating a lot of carbohydrates or sugars, they will tend to generate more CO2, and then the body will elevate that breath rate, huff off more CO2 in an effort to balance out that bloodstream. And so now the person's exhaling a lot more CO2. Now, this is not the only way that a person would have a higher level of CO2 and they might be breathing out more. Anything that's pushing the blood more towards that acidic side could cause the body to say, hey, I'm going to try and huff off more of this CO2 to try to balance out this pH. But the most common cause for someone to have a high breath rate and to be huffing off more CO2 is because they're eating too many carbohydrates and too many sugars. So if a person had the ability to reduce their carbohydrate intake or take in less sugar, then all of a sudden they would not need to huff off so much CO2. Or maybe they need to figure out what's acidifying the blood and correct that issue as well. But that seems to be a big driver for this mosquito magnet situation. And all you have to do is just look at your breath rate at home to get an idea of where you fall. And you can just set a 60-second timer like on your phone for just a minute, and then just count the number of inhales you have in that minute while you try to relax and breathe normally. So if you have lower than 12 breaths per minute, that's a sign that the blood could be leaning a little bit too far on that alkaline side, and you're breathing at a lower rate to hold on to more of that CO2. And if your breath rate is higher than like 18 or 19, that's a good sign that the blood may be leaning on that acidic side. And if you could take steps to balance that out, your body might not need to breathe at such a high level, and you might not have to put out so much CO2 and tell all the mosquitoes that it's dinner time. Or if you feel like you're a carboholic or you really need carbohydrates to function, there's usually reasons for that. There's usually digestive malfunctions going on, and a person can't break down proteins or processed fats correctly, so they're kind of gravitating towards eating more carbohydrates. And we have lots of videos on how to correct those issues. We'll put some links in the description below this video on issues like cravings that can kind of help you understand what needs to be corrected to allow you to reduce the amount of carbohydrates or sugars that you're consuming. And another big driver that can attract mosquitoes is excess lactic acid. And a lot of the scientists will say, yeah, if you're exercising a lot, you're creating more lactic acid, you're going to attract more mosquitoes. But here's the catch. There's an imbalance that can occur in the body that will cause the body to make more lactic acid all the time. So basically, our body moves at this circadian rhythm at the cellular level. So during the day, we should be in what's called a catabolic state, where the body's very good at creating energy and kind of keeping us going all day. And then at night, we move into this anabolic state, where the body is very good at resting and rebuilding and repairing. So both of those states are appropriate. The problem is, some people can get stuck in one of those states most of the time. And if they're not moving back and forth from day to night like they should, it can create a lot of health issues. And one problem is that if someone is stuck in that anabolic state most of the time, that state can cause a person to create energy through fermentation. And a byproduct of creating energy through fermentation is lactic acid. So a person's lactic acid levels can be very high, and they'll be putting off a lot more lactic acid, and that seems to attract more mosquitoes. But if a person looked at their body chemistry and found, oh wow, I do appear to be leaning way more on this anabolic side, they could take steps to correct that imbalance, and then all of a sudden the body's not going to be creating energy through fermentation all the time. It's not going to be creating this byproduct of lactic acid and raising those levels so that it's kind of getting pushed out through the skin anytime they perspire at all. And we kind of perspire all the time. It's just such a small amount that it just kind of evaporates, but it's enough to ring the dinner bell for a mosquito. Does that make sense? So if this channel is new to you and you don't know how to look at your body chemistry, my book, Kick Your Fat in the Nuts, kind of shows you how to look through simple self-tests that you could do at home with tools you could pick up at like a pharmacy or a health food store. And the book is available on Amazon, but I'll put a link in the description below this video so you can get the whole thing totally for free, and that'll kind of walk you through that process of looking at your own body chemistry to get an idea if there's an imbalance there and see if you're dealing with that anabolic imbalance that might be causing you to create a lot more lactic acid. There's also some foods that some of these studies have shown that, oh man, these really attract more mosquitoes when people are drinking more of these. And some of those are like bananas and like beer especially. And so if you're a drunk monkey, then maybe that's not a great situation to hang out where mosquitoes are. But it doesn't seem to be the foods that you're eating as far as the biggest driver, unless you're eating a lot of carbohydrates that are raising your CO2 expelling situation, or you're eating foods that push you into this more anabolic state. What's interesting is that carbohydrates and sugars are very pro-anabolic. So you can see that if a person was eating a lot of carbs and sugars, there's a lot of mechanisms there that could really make them mosquito bait. And the last thing I want to touch on is if your yard is just like covered in mosquitoes, there's steps you can take to really reduce that. You can get these things called mosquito dunks, and they're available at most big box like hardware store kind of things, and you can look for them online as well. But you can just hang a couple of buckets of water in your yard, because that's where the mosquitoes like to lay their eggs, and you put these mosquito dunks in the water, and they basically kill the mosquito larva before they can grow into an adult mosquito that's going to go hunt you down. So you're basically killing off the life cycle because you're killing off the larva before they become adults, and the life cycle of a mosquito is usually only 2 to 3 weeks for most types of mosquitoes. Some are a little bit longer, but if you can kill off the larva before they really hatch, then all of a sudden you're stopping that breeding cycle and you can really knock down the numbers. So that can help kind of improve the situation around your house as you're taking steps to improve your situation so that at least the mosquitoes that are there are going to chase somebody else instead of you. So I hope that helps. Let us know in the comments how it goes. If you have other steps that you found that work really well for you, let us know so we can learn those as well. And if you want to learn more about that anabolic imbalance, you can jump over right now and check out our video on understanding an anabolic imbalance. I can't wait to hear about your results.